Welcome to QJA Connect Session 1 for 2023. Tonight's topic is all about the QJA Awards, and we have on our panel tonight, we have Bruce, Sarah and Joan. Sarah is currently a QJA director. She's also a former awards winner, so she's got all the inside goss and tips, both as an individual and her branch. Bruce and Joan are also former QJA directors, and they're our QJA Award judges. So, so tonight's session, you're going to get the inside and how you can get an award. We've changed things somewhat this year, so the process is a little bit easier, and we'll demonstrate how you can nominate a little bit later on. Now, before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands from which we're joining this meeting tonight, their elders past, present and emerging. We have members here tonight who are from across the state. Of course, we have a number of members from the Brisbane metropolitan area. We also have members, and I'd like to express a very special welcome to our members from elsewhere. So we have members from Bundaberg, Townsville, Mackay, Gladstone, Rockhampton, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba and Hervey Bay. So welcome to you, and I'm glad that you could join us tonight. And I'm going to pick that some of these branches are going to be putting in a nomination. So all right, so a little housekeeping just before we get started. This is a webinar, it's not a Zoom meeting, and that's why you're all muted. So we will have the opportunity for you, if you want to speak, we will let you raise your hand and open the mic to you. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A, because that is like putting your hand up in class. So if you don't put them there, we might not see your hand up. If you want to do chat is like passing notes in class. You know how you used to do that when you're in high school, maybe primary school. That's what chat is for. But please put your questions in the Q&A and we'll answer them as we go. Or perhaps we've allowed a bit of time at the end of the session for some questions as well. This session is being recorded. So you'll receive a recording of this if you, so you don't need to take copious notes or anything like that. And if you registered but you weren't able to join us, then you'll also receive a recording. And if you are hearing that, then you didn't register on Zoom, then you already know that. So once the session finishes, we'll be invited to complete a survey on SurveyMonkey, and that helps us to improve on our QJA sessions. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Bruce, who's going to explain what the QJA Awards are all about. Over to you, Bruce.
Thanks, Wendy. I guess the reason why I've been tasked with this is that since the awards were inaugurated in about 2016. I've been part of the committee that actually helped set it up, and also as part of the judging committee as well. So the purpose of the awards that were original, well, I should say that the initial group, apart from myself, was Marion Vierweiser, and for those who remember, she used to be vice president and board member. Gar Stevens, who was also a board member. So primarily the purpose was to recognise branches and individuals and QJA engagement activities. So, you know, that was that they'd have made made or continued to make ambassadorial contribution to the advancement of the QJA. The awards were are meant to be annual. The awards presented an opportunity to recognise notable achievements of branches, individuals and engagement, and the activities highlighted in the public area of the role of the QJA to first enhance the ideals of the QJA. Later on, things were added in to support the vision and mission, and the criteria were based on. I'm a member of another association, and we have what they call Distinguished Past Students Awards. And the basis was actually on the model that was on that. And then we just adapted the criteria to meet the requirements as for the organisation. So there was also an assessment then. We developed an assessment process whereby there was a spreadsheet. Each category would had the list of criteria, and then it was supposed to be an objective assessment, and there was a rating of 0 to 5. So if there was no submission but only a name, then they rated 0, right up to strongly supported, which was rated as 5. So the criteria at that stage was member engagement growth, training excellence through professional development, work groups and mentoring, marketing, raising the QJA profile, community engagement activities and projects that reached out to the broader community. We then did a bit of a revision in 2019 and actually added in emerging leader, which Sarah was one of the recipients of it, not that year, but the following year. I think, weren't you emerging leader, Sarah? I thought you were. Anyway.
No, that was Claire Brown.
Right, no worries. I knew one of you were. Since then, as Wendy has said, there's been some improvements. And now you're looking at supporting the vision of excellence within the JP service. And again, what it's doing is reflecting the 5 pillars that the association operate by. So you've got education, information, community, advocacy, and governance. So there's been an evolution process where we've had the different categories. There's now 2 basic categories, personal service or group awards. So that allows then a little bit more ability for more people to be appointed. So whereas it would, if you had looked at the individual or the member of the year, you only ended up with 1 member, unless they tied on, then you'd have to sort of break it up. Whereas there's an opportunity now for more than 1 member to maybe be acknowledged, but also in terms of groups or branches, whatever it is, that are doing something notable or connecting with their community or whatever, then there can be more than 1 award with that. So it's been an evolving process. I'm happy that I was involved right from the start. And I must admit, I think as it's evolved, I think it's got better and better. The important thing, though, is that in any sort of application is to read what the criteria are and look at the person or group that you're nominating, look at how they meet those criteria, and then write your application or nomination in that tone. The assessment is still done by the spreadsheet method and things in terms of how you then objectively assess these nominations. So basically that's the history, the what, where, why and who. And so I'll hand back to Wendy. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Bruce. So I've just turned my video. I'll turn my video back on. So let's have a look at how you nominate. So essentially, you nominate either a group or an individual through our website. And I'm going to share my screen and we're going to do one. All right, so we've got our website here. So you'll find that under the membership tab, now I'm not signed in here, you don't need to sign in to do this. Under membership, we go to awards. And say this is our award page. So there are two sections. So we've got an individual award and an individual nomination and a group award or group nomination. And there's a bit of an explanation about what those awards are about. Excuse me. And you've got two options here. So you can either nominate online form, or you can download an Adobe PDF and handwrite it and then send it in. All right, so let's see what the nominate online looks like. Now, fingers crossed, you know what technology is like. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So this is what it will look like. Now you see you've got a little Adobe warning down here, so just continue. All right, so let's nominate me. I'm just doing this for fun, by the way. This is not a demonstration of what I expect everyone to do. I know my member number. I'm going to nominate myself here. So under here, we've got three sections in the form. So a bit of an overview of the nominee, a bit of an explanation of their personal service. So how their JP witnessing or they're acting in the JP profession. And then the third section is how that's sort of providing a demonstrated benefit to the community. So we're just going to, as you can see, there's quite a bit of text area here. So I'm going to put my responses here. So I'm going to go, is a legend always a legend? Will always. It's the only time I get to do this stuff. Be a legend. There we go. Finish my form. Like I said, there's a lot of text available here. So then we need to go to this bit. So it's me. Put in me as the nominator. I'm putting in my details and membership number. Then I'm going to click here to see it says click here to sign. So I'm just going to put my name in here. Clearly not my real signature. And apply. All right. And that's all we need to do to complete the nomination. And then we go submit. Now, what that will do, I put my email address in here and then submit again. What it's going to do is it's going to email me as the person who put the nomination in a copy of that nomination form. Simultaneously, it will send me, not the me and the, to admin@qja.com.au. It will send a copy of that. It will send through that nomination form. So that's all you need to do if you do it online. You don't need to go and scan it and email it and do all that sort of stuff. So, of course, like I said, you can do this offline as well. So you download a form, which is a fillable Adobe form, much the same name. All right, now the difference with this is you've still got all these text things in here. And you would just type your name in there. It's like you don't necessarily have to sign it. And then you would need to kind of print it and save it. And then you would need to email it in. So that's your option there. That might be if you want to if you want to do it offline to, I don't know, maybe you want to sort of, do it together with someone else. One of the key changes that we've made this year is that, as you saw, any person can nominate any other person. All right, so there's no need for that nomination to be seconded by anyone. And if you think you're truly a legend, then you can nominate yourself. Okay, so that is one of the key changes to the individual nomination form. The group nomination is for, we'll have a look at that as soon as I get back to it. Hang on a sec. I'll just stop sharing for a moment. Just because I have to press the back button. So, all right. Okay, I'll share again. So for a group nomination, now with the groups, the question was like, does it have to be a QJA branch? Not necessarily. A group could be a particular group of volunteers. The other question might be, do they have to be QJA members? Or do they, if it was a group, do they all have to be QJA members? And the answer to that is no. The idea behind the awards is that we want to recognise excellence in JP practice. So even if someone was not a member and you thought they really deserved some recognition, we're prepared to do that because that's what the awards are about. I guess the only proviso is that you are a member if you're nominating someone. Okay, so the group nomination online is very similar to the individual one. Same kind of thing. This time I'm going to nominate the office. Ha ha ha. A little bit, there's a little bit more on criteria. So there's A, B, C, and D. And then you can put your text here. And we are all legends. Like that, just a bit of a joke. I don't really believe this, so, you know. Okay, and then submit. My email address, so I get a copy of it. Actually, I forgot the bit where you've got to fill in this. Okay. Otherwise, I get an anonymous nomination. I'll just pre-fill that. It doesn't have quite the same field, so we just type in a name and the date. Then we'll do this a bit, but don't forget that bit, okay, because I did. So don't copy that. You all know my personal email address now. And I go submit. And much the same, it will then send me a copy of that nomination and it will email admin@qja.com.au the PDF of that nomination also. So that's as simple as it is. And like the individual awards, you can also do it offline. And like the individual awards, you would have noted that we didn't need to get it seconded. We didn't need to get it all signed off by a committee of a branch, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'll stop sharing now. So has anyone got any questions on the nomination process at all?
Not yet, Wendy.
Not yet. Excellent. Awesome. So I will hand you over now to Sarah, who's going to talk about tips on how to put in a successful nomination for the QJA Award. So over to you, Sarah. Thank you. Sarah, sorry.
That's okay. So I've been asked to talk about tips for nominating, and I have some notes, so bear with me. Bruce and Wendy have already said a lot of stuff, but basically there are only 2 awards this year, Individual Excellence Award and the Group Excellence Award. But there can be more than one winner. So depending on the quality of the nominations that we receive, we could have 3 individual excellence awards, okay? And as they said earlier, we have streamlined the process and hopefully it makes it easier. So you can download the form, as Wendy said, or nominate online. But I cannot stress this enough, and this is really the whole secret. I've got 5 minutes to tell you this. It'll take me 2 seconds. Read what is on the nomination form. That's it. That's the secret. You may know someone that you want to nominate and fluff everything as much as you like and talk about them, but you need to address the questions. Now, we have streamlined them. The committee has streamlined them, I should say, and they're very simple. It's a lot more easier for you to put your story in there, but you do need to address each section. And as Wendy said, there are 3 sections in individual nominations and 4 for the group. So please make sure you read them. Here's a tip though. get someone else to read your nomination once you've done it. It's always good to have fresh eyes, someone that hasn't been a party to completing the nomination form. So you might think, okay, I've read it. I think I've, done a great job. They'll come along and say, well, you didn't mention this. So always a good idea. The next thing that we have done this year, and this is a really good idea, is we've got a review period. Okay, so now this is something different. You've got to try things. So there'll be an initial review period for nominations received up to 31st of August. And what this means then is, and in Wendy's example of submitting a nomination for herself, being a legend, the committee would receive this nomination, go, okay, we feel that it needs to have more information. So without telling Wendy what she needs to do, we will return the nomination form to her and say, Wendy, thank you for your nomination, but we feel it doesn't quite meet the criteria. And we'd like we're giving you a chance to review it and then resubmit it. Now, don't forget, you get one chance at this, and it's only for nominations received up to the 31st of August, which you've got months, but don't leave it to the last week. So that's a really good opportunity for you. And in Wendy's case, she'll have to explain why she's a legend and address all the other questions as well. And don't forget, as they said, you can self-nominate, all right? You can nominate someone and they do not have to accept anymore. So you might go, well, I think, Bruce is doing a wonderful job, but I know he's a bit shy or whatever, but I do want to nominate him because I know the work he does to advance the JP services and things like that. So sometimes to address some of the questions, you may have to talk to the nominee to get some information, but also you've got your branch, okay, your executive and things like that. They would probably have a wealth of information on the person that you're wanting to nominate. So just try that. But really, the whole idea is you need to read the questions, then read them again, and then read them again, and just make sure in your answer that you are addressing what we're asking for. Okay, but you do have that second chance, so to speak, with the review process. We'd really like lots of nominations. Okay, my 4 branches are going to hear from me over the next few months. Because I will be pushing it, because there's got to be people out there that are worthy of recognition. I received a nomination for Member of the Year. That was a real hoot, and I've got my award on the shelf over here. So, but it's really lovely to be recognised for the work that you're doing, okay, especially in a volunteer environment as we are. So please, don't be shy. And if for yourself also, if you feel that you're worthy, that you meet the criteria in the nomination form, self-nominate. No one needs to know. It's all, you're the only one putting it inside. And then if you're a winner, then that's fantastic. So please, we do encourage everyone to seriously consider nominating. Okay. Anyone got any questions for me? It really is about answering the questions. I've successfully written a Member of the Year, and obviously not my own, but a Member of the Year award, and also a Branch of the Year award. So, you've just got to read the questions and make sure you address the issues.
Yeah, thanks. We do have a question which is in the chat. So, and that is, which I guess we kind of skipped over because it didn't really flash up, did it? When do the nominations have to be in by? And I guess what's changed this year is, in past years, the awards have always been part of the QJA conference. But because the conference is, and that kind of relates back to when the conference was in November and it was around the AGM. And the conference got moved forward. So the conference is now in April. Here's another, I'll just do a little promo plug for our conference. It is in April, and it is May this year to line up with National Volunteer Week, and registrations are on the website, and we'll be sending some more information soon. There's the ad. So the nominations for the awards actually close at the end of September. So it's now the end of February, and the closing date is the end of September. So it gives you plenty of time to put nominations in, to put them in. And as Sarah mentioned, the committee are allowing for kind of resubmissions to be put in. There's a time that they can be put in. It's like, you guys just refresh me on what we said that was?
31st of August.
Right. So,
and one go.
Okay, so if you put your nomination in before the 31st of August, it could kind of be given a pre-flight check, if you like, and you get the opportunity to then to, amend your submission and put it in if it doesn't kind of pass muster. So, excuse me. This is what happens when you have beer while you're on a Zoom meeting. So we do have the closing date in September. You have until the 31st of August. That gives some time for some resubmission if needed. And between September and the AGM, which will be held in the first weekend in November, that's when we will announce the QJA award winners. So there's plenty of time to think about your nominations, think about who you're going to nominate, and hopefully we won't get an overabundance of them because that'll be expensive. But as we alluded to, we have 2 categories, but that doesn't mean that there is just one in each category. There could be multiple awards in each category. So hopefully that answers your question. So I don't think there are any more so far. So now we'll hand you over to Joan, who will talk about how the nominations are assessed. So Jane and Bruce have been the judging panel for the last couple of years. So, Joan will give you an explanation of what they're looking for in that nomination. So over to you, Joan. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Bruce and Sarah, for your input so far. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is a really important part of the QJA, and I'm really happy to be part of the panel. And I too have been, our branch has been a recipient of one of these awards, so it is quite an exciting thing. What your job is when you're writing your nomination is to convince the judging panel that the person or group that you're nominating is the most outstanding. They are the shining light. This is the example you want to hold up. So how are you going to do that and tell the judging panel that this person delivers JP services to such an excellent standard? Well, as Bruce and Sarah have already said, you look at the criteria, and we use the 4 pillars of the QJA: the education, communicate, connection, information, governance, and advocacy. The panel decided that governance and advocacy are probably a little bit hard for individuals and branches to address. They're sort of more strategic. So it's really slimmed down to education, connection, and information. So if we have a look first at the individual award, now I don't know whether if any of you do happen to have the form in front of you, but as Wendy went through it, it's just a fairly simple form and there's lots of free text for you to type. So what we're looking for here is for you to tell us about the outstanding attributes of this individual that you're going to nominate. What makes this person stand out to you, and what will make them stand out to the judge? The other thing you're going to be doing is talking about their personal service and how do they benefit the JP profession and the community. So if we just have a little quick look at sort of a brief submission, something in the line of Wendy put in, except it's a little bit more than I'm a legend, I'm a legend, I'm a legend. So let's look at Joe Bloggs. Joe Bloggs is friendly, reliable, turns up at the signing desk when he's rostered, and is also on the after hours JP register. He attends branch meetings and he's interested in PD. He helps out at the local Red Cross Centre and Med Shed where he does JP services and often signs EPAs. So Joe's a good bloke. We know that. Joe's got some good personal attributes. He's good at education. He's interested and he helps out of the community. Is that going to get him across the line? Probably not. The judging panel will say, yeah, he's a good bloke, but tell us more about him. So how would you make Joe much more exciting, basically, to the judging panel? Well, let's flesh Joe out a bit. So Joe Bloggs witnesses more than 5,000 documents every 6 months. Like, he is fantastic. This man is a legend, really. He volunteers at 2 signing sites. So he really goes above and beyond. And then he's also listed with DJAG as the After Hours JP. But not only that, Joe has this excellent relationship with the Queensland Police Service, and he's often asked to go out and do search warrants in the middle of the night. Joe is the real legend. He's going above and beyond. And you're telling us you've got evidence to support that he is a really good bloke and worthy of this application. Now, some of Joe's other attributes might be his ability to deal with challenging people. So you might want to tell us about how he dealt with a situation that escalated at the men's shed. They were fighting over the hacksaw or something. How did Joe deal with that? This man is really, really good, and you can tell us about that. So what about participating in education? Well, we said, yeah, he's interested in PD, but in fact, Joe is an active participant of the QJA Back and Beyond branch. He's been on the branch committee for 5 years. He was 2 years as the chair, and he's now the committee member that is responsible for arranging the PD sessions and guest speakers. So he's a little bit more than just interested in PD. So you'd be telling the judging panel how interested he is in PD and how he supports his colleagues by getting these guest speakers. You might also go on to tell us, what do they think of the guest speakers? You might have some sort of evaluation that you can include. Maybe your branch does that, evaluates each of the guest speakers and gives them 10 out of 10 or whatever, and Joe's picking wonderful speakers for the branch. Maybe Joe's also very well respected in the community. He extends himself apart, and he was given a Mayor's Award for his role in providing JP services when people were displaced during the floods. My God, he's so good, isn't he, eh? So he let everyone know that he was able to do this JP service because he had it on the local radio and the local Facebook page. I mean, you know, look, where is Joe? We really need Joe, don't we? You might also include in there lots of other things about Joe. You know, how does he get on with the other JPs? Does he mentor new JPs? He's such a wonderful person. There's so many things you can tell us. And each time you tell us something about Joe, that will improve the ability for him to win this award, because he really deserves it. But you need to tell us all of these things that he can do. What's his education like? How does he connect? How does he inform? And what are those wonderful personal attributes that he's got that makes him outstanding? So that's really what we want about Joe. And could be a woman. Joe could be a man or a woman, you know. We don't mind. What about the branch or the group? How are we going to look at them? Well, once again, education, connection, and information. This is what we want you to address for us. So you can tell us, your branch or your group, we do PD meetings, we have guest speakers, we have workshops. But what about them? How good are they? Do you have guest speakers every time? What have people said about the guest speakers? Have you attracted more members when you've had a great guest speaker? And have you been able to keep those members coming in? Did you get any feedback from anybody? These are the things we want to know about the education. Have people come back to you and said, look, that was great. I now know how to do this. Did you run a workshop and have an evaluation of it? Can people do things that they couldn't do before? We all know that a lot of people are rather frightened of doing EPAs. So maybe, do you have a particular person in your branch or group that is an expert, an experienced person that people can turn to? Maybe you could tell us about that, how that works, how people get access to that. Connection and information, like they're really closely related, and sometimes it might be difficult for you to say, well, am I talking about connection or am I talking about information here? And I'll give you an example of that. Say your branch does a newsletter. Well, that's the connection, isn't it? That's how you connect with your members. It's what you put in your newsletter that is the content that tells us about the information. So is your newsletter full of, I don't know, things that don't matter? Or is it really full of tips and tricks for young JPs, local phone numbers that people might want to have? The difference between a good newsletter and a bad newsletter, perhaps. You know, you tell us what you think. You tell us about that. Maybe you have membership drives. Have you increased the number of people who've come to your branch meetings? How did you do it? Because everyone's looking for that magic bullet. And if you've got it, please share it with us. We really want to know. Maybe you've got some kind of incentives to get members to come along more frequently. Maybe you send alerts to your branch members when new and interesting things are happening. So that's how you're connecting with your branch members. And you would extend that, hopefully, to other people who are in the community who are JPs. If you have some projects that you do like that, tell us about that. Did you recruit some people who've been JPs for 25 years, have never thought of joining the QJA? We'd like to hear about that. What about connecting with the community? That is really important. That's really big. Community sees us at shopping centres, libraries, wherever we do the JP services. But do we actually go out there? Does your branch actively go and find places to participate? So have you been to a local expo? Did you have a stand? Did you give out brochures, memberships? How many people came and asked you, how can I become a JP? What does a JP do? All of those sort of things. That's what we want to hear. That's how the judging panel will evaluate your capacity to be an outstanding group. Excuse me. What about this type of information that you have? As I said, the newsletter is a good example of information there, but I'll just give you a little example of maybe your branch is doing a project. Some branches do wonderful projects and connect with the community. So say your branch found that there's a lot of palliative care patients in the area where you live, and these people are very sick. They can't be coming down to JP signing centres and queuing up and waiting in line for 2 hours. So maybe your branch has done a project where you say, well, we could actually have a service where we go into people's homes. So your connection there would be that you'd actually connect with the local palliative care service. You'd have a meeting with them, work out what their needs are, work out what you can do, and then you'd probably provide them with some information that they can include in, I'm sure they give out information packs to their patients. So maybe a little pamphlet or something where you say, this is how you can contact a JP. This is what the JP can do for you. This is what you need to have if you're needing an EPA or an AHD signed. Just some little bits of information like that. That will demonstrate to the judges how you've gone above and beyond just turning up at the signing centre, which is all very well and good. And I'm not dismissing that. I'm just talking about how you can go above and beyond and what the judges would be looking for, that greater level of commitment, because we know you're out there. As Sarah said, we know people are out there doing wonderful things. Maybe you've had something published in the local newspaper about the services you've had. Include that, okay? So once we've got all the applications in, the judges will go through them. As Bruce said, we have a spreadsheet. There will be a criteria. We will evaluate it against that criteria. Where there's no evidence, and you just said we do PD, well, everyone does that. So you're really not going to get a great score for that. But when you tell us about your PD, how many guest speakers you have, how many people come along, and more detail like that, that's where the judges are going to say, well, this branch has really gone above and beyond. So I just wanted to say that, going on from what Wendy said before, and I think Sarah said this too, about, we can give out more than one award. We won't be doing every child gets a prize. You still need to put in a high standard of an application, but from the judge's perspective, in the past, we've had some outstanding high caliber applicants, but we could only offer one award, and we had to make up our minds who we were going to give that to, and sometimes people won by a whisker. Fortunately, we've seen the error of that, and we've opened it up so that we can actually, where we've got really high caliber people, maybe 3 people who are worthy of an excellence award, we can say these 3 people are equally worthy, and we can give out those awards. And just to finish up, I'd just like to follow up with some of the things that Sarah said. The format, please make it easy to read when you're typing in the forms. Use a good, easy font to read. We like headings. They might make life very easy for us. Line spacing and paragraphing is good. We like to see that. I think if you're using the online form, it will automatically have page numbers, so you probably don't need to do that. But if you're doing it by hand or handwriting it, please put page numbers on it. And I guess the online form tells you about how long it should be, but look, a rule of thumb, 3 to 4 pages should be adequate to cover off on everything that you need to say. But if you're good and succinct, you might not even need that much. And just to reiterate what Sarah said, please get someone else to read it before you submit it. So any questions about that?
No, there's none in the Q&A, and there's no questions in the chat. So just to, I guess we can recap, and if you think of a question, just please do ask, or if you have a comment, put it in the chat. So just to recap, the awards are open until September. And you can nominate online through the website. You don't need to log in. You, as the person nominating someone, do need to be a QJA member, but you're not strictly limited to whether the person or the group or members of the group are all QJA members. So, because, sometimes you may have a JP in mind who's really, really deserving, but you don't know if they're a current financial member or not, because you can't see that, it's not accessible and out in the public, so yeah, but you yourself need to be a member. So it does need to be a nomination received that way, and you have quite a few months to get those nominations in, get them in before the 31st of August, and you've got a chance of resubmitting if need be. So
there's a question there, Wendy.
Yep.
How long have these awards been available? I think I mentioned in my presentation, we started them in 2016. I think the first awards were at the Rockhampton conference.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah, so a couple of years they've been around. So this is kind of a new iteration, I guess, of the awards, and so we've done our best to sort of make it a bit more streamlined and a bit fairer and a bit more open. Yeah, so you've got that. You've got more time to submit it. The person or group you're nominating don't have to be QJA members, but if you're nominating, you have to be a QJA member. It doesn't have to be seconded by anyone. So, you can just do that online form and submit it. You don't need to go and then get, another person to do the same. We don't need that. It doesn't need to be kind of approved by the executive committee at the branch or anything like that. And the person or group that you're nominating, they don't have to kind of pre-accept the award for you to put that nomination in. So yeah, sorry, we just had a comment come through. So so just remember that. And the awards will be conferred at the AGM in November. So you, like I said, you've got plenty of time. To put those nominations in, I certainly encourage you, you know, to think, you know, broadly about who you believe, you know, is deserving of a nomination. So, and put them in. They don't even have to know about it. So it'll be a nice sort of surprise or a shock, either or, you know. So and it's really, as the panelists have said, you know, answer the questions in the nomination form, address that criteria, and give examples, you know. So it's the old thing, you know, in sort of academia or, you know, any kind of study that you do. If you're going to make a statement, you need to back it up. So you need to sort of back it up with some evidence, you know, for it to be kind of that supporting that statement. So, you know, you can't just say, yeah, I'm a legend, or this person's a legend. You have to tell us why they're a legend, in what ways are they a legend. You know, for example, give us a, you know, tell a story that demonstrates that statement and supports it, is the way. So going to have a look at our questions. No, we don't have any questions there. But if you sort of come away from this session and you go, oh, I forgot to ask something, do feel free to you know, to pop in an email to admin@qja.com.au. If you're having, if you're wanting to put a nomination in and you're kind of a little bit lost as to how to do it, also give us a call by all means, or, you know, more than happy to help. Okay, so we do have okay, Sarah's answering that question. So
Comment there.
yeah. Yeah, part of the reason why yeah, part of the reason why we kind of took you know, took away the need for the person being nominated to say yes, they'll accept an award, is that, you know, I guess, you know, I guess the kind of nature and personality of people out there that are, you know, really, you know, great volunteers out in the community, you know, and they're often, you know, volunteers in, not just in, you know, as a JP, they're, you know, they're volunteering in other organisations. The nature of people who do that is that they can be very humble as well. So, you know, they don't do it for recognition necessarily. So, you know, so it's not that, you know, we kind of just want to sneaky put a nomination in. It's more that, you know, most people are kind of, they're not going to nominate themselves. And, you know, if you say to them, I want to nominate you for an award, they go, oh no, please don't, you know, I don't want the attention, and, you know, I don't do it for that. And so that's why we've taken that away. And, you know, having to second the nomination was also, you know, a bit of a pain, I think, in getting those nominations in. So we'll just check the questions again.
I think the comment there was you was concerned about people self-nominating, as opposed, they had no problem with people nominating someone, but the idea of someone self-nominating.
Yeah, again, it's sort of, you know, it's almost considered, all, you know, like almost sort of un-Australian, you know. Yeah, and I do have my camera off because my internet gets quite unstable, and like the screen starts freezing and stuff. So I'll appear. There you go. I've reappeared. You know, so it's sort of, you know, and it stops because I've stopped burping now. So as I said, I think if there's no further questions, or comments, then we'll kind of start to wrap up. Has anyone got any general questions?
There's another comment there from, looks like Tara Lucas. It says the SAO technique can be helpful when answering the criteria: situation, action, activity, and outcome.
Okay, the SAO
Yeah, SAO
technique. like the biscuit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can you still get those?
And that's
Yeah.
a technique that in a lot of applications for
Okay.
jobs and so forth, you know, you identify the situation, you know,
Okay.
the action was taken, how it was done, and then what the outcome. And that's a bit what Joan was saying before in outlining the how to complete.
Yeah, David said the star format to provide info is a good way. Situation, task, action, result, address this, and you've got a complete explanation. So
Yeah.
just
So
read
that.
the nomination. That's all we say. And self-nominate. If you know, it's a chance for bragging rights. No one's going to know unless you win. And then obviously you're worthy of the award if you win. So, and no one,
Yeah.
you know, we really do want to see more entries than we have in the past. It really is an opportunity to recognise excellent behaviour in the JP industry.
Yeah, and no one's going to know that you're self-nominated because we don't give the nominators a prize. We don't mention that who they were nominated by. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's like, oh no, it's hard. You know, it's always considered on Australia to be blowing your own trumpet, but you know, you're not stopped from doing so when it comes to the QJA awards, at least. So. So if we'll just check the chat again.
No.
How many applications do we have each year? And I guess I'll ask the judging panel that. How many applications have we?
Well, it varies considerably. Some years we've had a significant number, up to 9 nominations for Member of the Year one year. And then another year we might only have 2. So it is up and down. But hopefully we will get a good lot. And just to remind you too that if you're not successful this year, that doesn't mean to say that you can't reapply next year as well. You know, as I said earlier, some people have missed out by just a whisker. And if there was another group of applicants, they would have been given the award, but they were just in the pool where it was a very high caliber.
Yeah, where there was a lot of people swimming in the pool and just had to choose one. Yeah,
Particularly in terms of an activity. If it's an ongoing activity, and it is building and getting better and better and better. That enables to sell how it's improving and so forth.
Yeah.
As Joan said, if you miss out by a whisker, that extra 12 months have been able to consolidate and show how it's improved and connecting and educating and whatever. Maybe just the difference in terms of taking off the award.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the other changes that we made, apart from the seconder and all that sort of stuff, was the of the year thing. So because that was sort of confusing. if you were sort of conferring an award in May, which year was it? The previous year or the year you were in? Or we were closed. I guess what we had last year was like, we were closed for COVID, so there was no year. So so we've taken the of the year bit out. So it's an award that's conferred in a year, so it'll have a date on it. But it doesn't need to be restricted to 2023 or 2022. It's a bit broader than that. Although if you're going to put a nomination in, and you're putting that kind of your supporting, that nomination with evidence, that should be reasonably current, as opposed to something that maybe happened 40 years ago. So, because that is sort of, although that's, probably very worthy, it's like we're looking for kind of a bit of currency to that element in it. So, so like I said, if you have any questions, do feel. Okay, so Leo Burke is asking if it's only for Queenslanders. Good question.
I would say yes.
I would say yes.
Because we're Queensland Justice Association.
Yeah, I would say it was for Queensland JPs. But
we would hope that if we get nominations from non-QJA members, it might encourage them to become members.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it'll be as embarrassing as hell,
Mm.
right? So, no, not necessarily. I mean, it just sort of says, our organisation, recognise, we think that it's important, that excellence in JP service is important, and so that's why this award kind of exists, and this is why this person's getting it. It's not related to, whether they're a member or not, limited to them as members. So, yeah, so.
I think
one
also,
other thing-
I think also that in terms of the award and the way it has evolved from what was initially inaugurated, just shows how that the whole organisation is evolving. But it started out to try and show members that the association valued them, and this evolutionary process of how the awards are then moving on and how they've come today is part of that evolutionary process of being able to, reinforce the importance of members to the association.
Thanks for that, Bruce. So,
I was just going to add, if I could, it doesn't matter if there's more than one nomination for the same branch, group or individual either.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know that someone's nominating Joe Bloggs, doesn't matter if 3 people nominate him.
Yeah, then it's like buying raffle tickets. He's got a better chance of winning now.
No,
So,
it doesn't. It's all about the criteria.
yeah. So on that note, folks, I guess we'll wrap up now. So as I said, if you have any questions or you need some assistance with, completing that nomination form, do contact me at the office, by phone or email. And I'd like to thank Bruce, Joan and Sarah for being our panelists tonight and our QJA Award experts. Thank you for attending. And don't forget the survey at the end. Like I said, it's kind of important. It gives us a bit of feedback as to how we're doing and what we can do next. We will send you a link to the recording if you'd like to see it all over again, or you want to show, other, some friends or, other people in your group or your branch. Good luck, and we wish you a good night. And I hope you enjoyed the session, and I look forward to seeing some excellent awards being conferred this year. Our next QJA session will be on the 27th of April, and we have the Chief Magistrate joining us to give us a bit of feedback on, all those documents that we witness, what happens to them when they go to the Magistrates Court. So do hope you'll join us for that. You can register on the website, and we look forward to seeing you for QJA Connect too. So good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, do I just go now?
Yeah.
See ya.
Okay, good night.